Whether your project is big or small, being able to estimate the cost of it and what actually is going to go into making it built is pretty important even from the beginning. So whether you're an architect or you're designing your own home, Revit gives you some awesome tools to help this go forward. In this part of the course, I'm going to go through using the tools that are built in Revit to look at the items and information in your model and start to get totals and sums about each of the individual materials and assemblies. I'll also go through how you can total this up and put this into either a Revit form or get it ready for exporting into whatever program you use for estimating. As this project is a very real set of information and Revit has incredible BIM or Building Information Modeling tools, the question is, how can we get this project built using the most of these tools? And one of the answers is that we can estimate the cost at every stage of construction. So this model is still basically an SD or a schematic design model, yet because we have all these systems and all these are quantified in Revit, that means that we can go ahead and put them into a schedule within the program and start to see how much this project will cost. Before continuing with looking at this pricing, I do want to show you a good resource outside of Google. Google actually has some great tools for estimating your project. You can do a simple Google search, and I'll show you very quickly where if you ever want to find out the materials, for instance, you want to find the brick cost per square foot, Google has several different sites that can help you price that unique material. And Revit itself, it calculates all these things within inside. A good resource that gives you accurate is RS Means, and it's accurate information about your cost estimating that could be very valuable if you're starting to say if this project is worth it. And over time you'll figure out how to estimate by simpler methods. But if you really wanted a quick estimate of how something's going to cost, other than a Google search, you can start building your calculation, and this is something that's very valuable. Let's get into how Revit has tools for cost estimating. So we'll look at a cost estimate that I just put together for the stone wall. Our project has 4 stone particular divisions, and we'll look at those. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I've detailed these walls out with various systems. But if I wanted to just see how much the stone was, I could make a takeoff for that. I've also made an entire takeoff for every single wall that has all of the assemblies. So let's go through and make a stone wall takeoff from the beginning. So the first thing we're going to do is from our schedules, go to New Schedule, and we're going to choose the new Material Takeoff. So click on that. And as you can see from this new dialog, we have several different things that we could be pricing or making a material takeoff, which is a shorthand for saying it's for pricing. So we're going to go down to Wall, and what we're going to do is use a unit cost for each of the walls, and I'll show you how we'll get that. But if you look up here, you can also see things like furniture and different types of casework, which are things that you could do one by one. For instance, if you had 2 cabinets, they might cost the same. For the wall, we're going to have to use square footage. So that'll be a very good thing for you to see, and you'll see how to use this when you're thinking about other items because it goes by the same logic. Okay, so we're going to leave the name and we're going to leave the new construction and we'll click OK. Okay, for our material takeoff, we want to have some very specific information, and it's going to be all around the material. So we're going to scroll down, first selecting family and the family and type, then down to the material area, the material cost, the material description, and for right now, that material name right above the description, so we'll put that higher. This information will help us deliver the takeoff, but we also want to make sure we get a total, which is multiplying our area times the cost. And I'll show you how to put in the cost for each material. So to create a total, we're going to click FX. And in here, we'll just call this total. And it's going to be a formula, and it's going to equal the area times, using this asterisk, the cost, and it's going to be divided by 1 foot squared. And this is so it will be in the proper units. And we can click OK. And next, we're going to go into how it's going to be sorted. We're going to click Family first, and then we'll click Family and Type. And at the bottom, we're going to click Grand Totals. That'll give a grand total at the end of how many units are there. And then we're going to scroll up to see the formatting. And we're going to click on Total. And we're fine with the other formatting, but we want to make sure in this drop down that instead of a no calculation, we're going to add a calculate totals. And we're not really changing things in appearance, so we'll click OK. Alright, so now you see all of the walls in the project and their assemblies. For instance, our basic wall A1 has concrete masonry, metal furring, rigid insulation, and a stone veneer. And so you'll see that it's on both sides, and this is one wall assembly, so it'll be double. And you see this for all the walls in the project. And you also will see a price at the end of all these. Let's go into how we can get the prices for one system. We're first going to go to our 3D model so we can actually work out the prices for the stone veneer walls. So the stone veneer wall, which we've detailed a little bit more, we click it and we go to Edit Type and Structure. We'll see the assembly of this wall, which starts and ends with a stone veneer, and in the middle it has the metal furring, it has a vapor retarder, it has concrete masonry units on the inside, and rigid insulation. And one thing to make this appropriate, I have to put metal furring on the inside, though metal furring can go in between the insulation. So we'll give it a 1/4 inch depth so we can have that included. But it's going to give us the information we need so we can price it. And so to get the price to a material, we have to go to the material dialog. And so with each material, you'll have your settings. If you go to the Identity tab, you'll see that there is a place for a cost of the material. So if the cost from your research shows $750, you could change that here. Revit doesn't automatically put prices in these drawings, so you'll have to go and find that for yourself. But when you put it in there, you can always make a chart of the different prices that you can place into your model. So let's look at the metal furring. So we click into metal furring, and from my research, I found a price of about $1. Now be mindful that if you want to include the construction costs and the material costs and the contingency, that you'll have to make a note of what you're putting into that price. So I will estimate that this is for my material only. So the construction costs will have to be calculated later. I'll click OK. And vapor retarder, this is another system that would require a little more complication. So it's always good to research how you will price each element. For concrete masonry units, it's very easy to find that system. I found the price of $5 average. And then for rigid insulation, it's very expensive. So this is also a chance for you to research. If you find something too expensive, maybe something needs to be changed. I know insulation costs a lot of money, so it's good to research it. We'll just go with this Google answer, and you can do research to find out what's best for your project. You can also decide to change the insulation or the assembly method based on the price you see here. But make sure that your entire assembly is going to achieve what's needed for your project, including if it's an exterior wall, that it keeps out the weather, also the water, and also it maintains the look that you need. Having metal furring and a stone veneer as a very good assembly with rigid insulation will make sure people inside the building are well, and that the material will be taken care of. Mainly that all the material, fluid that gets inside will be able to be pushed out. And that's also going to be an issue considering the vapor retarder being on this side. This is something for you to research in your region what's best and most appropriate. So we've set these materials, we've set the prices. So let's go back to material takeoff so we can calculate. Now that we've assigned a wall material to each of our parts of the stone wall, we're going to make a new stone wall material takeoff from where we have started. What we're going to do with this is make sure that we're only going to see the stone veneer. Though the stone veneer has many different elements, we're going to first see what's happening with the stone, and then we'll look for all the other elements that are in the project for this takeoff. Right, so what are we going to do to remove items? We're going to make sure that we're going to first include what we're looking for. So we put stone veneer, and so this takeoff, just from what we've placed in here, tells us that we already have a estimate that it's going to be $45,000 for our stone. That's a lot of money. So being able to estimate quickly and seeing, hey, maybe this is too much for my project. Maybe we want to come back and shorten the wall. Or maybe we want the interior materials to be a little bit different. Some sort of way to balance the project. And maybe if this costs a certain amount, maybe we will save on finishes or assist them in another part of the project. By putting this together, we've made it easy to use the power of building information modeling to inform our design. So when you go and you've talked with either if you're a client or if it's your own house, you will be able to come back or talk to contractors before a project gets developed, so you can really start getting a price that you want and a design that matches in an intelligent way. Takeoff for other materials can be done in the same way that we've done for the stone material takeoff. I want to show you, just in case we want to duplicate and do the same thing for the Sugibon wall. We can just come back here, and now our filter can be Shugi, And we'll just make sure from looking at a larger takeoff, and we'll see that the Shugibon, we scroll down, it's called Betula. We'll go in here and we'll change it. So that should change our Shugi wall takeoff. And so we now see the price that would be for all the Shugibon. In case we wanted to make a estimate for our other systems, more like a unit, we can also make unit by unit takeoffs. And of course, the benefit here is that you could just get it from your model, though you could also just count them in your Excel sheet. We'll make it from the Revit system. This also could be done on elements like windows, fixtures, or unit costs that are not by area. We'd start by saying new schedule and quantities, and this would be for our doors. We're starting from scratch, and we would do similar family and type, but we would also scroll down here and choose things like the cost, and we would put count, and we come here for our total, and we just put cost times 1. And this is something where we could add like a fee or some sort of thing that would affect the price. For instance, if hardware costs a certain amount, we could just add that in. And then we go to sorting and grouping. We choose family and type. And in formatting, you'll know that in cost, it does give us the ability of calculating the total. We could also use this total that will include some of our other factored in price. And we click OK. So that already gives us our count and our total, but we want to make sure that we come back to our formatting and our grouping, make sure there's a grand totals. In our format, when we clicked on cost and calculate totals, click OK. And we see that there is no cost because we didn't set it. And we also want to put a total under our count. So we have a little bit of numbering as well there. Okay, so what we can now do is we can look at our model for a moment, but then we'll come back here and say the pricing. This is something you can also look on a catalog like Marvin Doors and Windows. So I'll hide some of these items. And you could use something like Marvin, and as you can see, the pricing is both for doors in the curtain wall and in regular systems in the project. And if you make a custom door, you'll find it listed custom in your takeoff. So this is listed as a door schedule. So that's another funny way of doing a takeoff, whereas a takeoff could get a little more information. You could just do this as a schedule. And we're going to come here and we'll say that our research that we can quickly find for a curtain wall door . So it talks about the cost of installing it. We'll go ahead and take a unit. If we said it's it's 200 to 600 per linear foot, and we're typically doing 3-foot doors. We'll go ahead and say it's about 600 for each of these. We'll click OK. And then for the double door, we'll click 1200. And we'll come back and we'll also say wood door cost, 3-foot door cost, and we'll look at something about 400 is something that we'll just use for this model. So we'll do actually 350 because these are not entry doors, and that'll change it for all the types. And we know that this smaller door, or this actually is the biggest door, so we'll put this one at 400. And so now we've seen the pricing for our doors done with a schedule, but it could also be done on the Takeoff. As you can see, this Takeoff, which is a little bit different because you'd have to go into the material, but the schedule is the natural way for pricing unique unit elements. Now we have our pricing system that we can use on any system. We can price walls, we can price fixtures, lighting, everything can be done within Revit. It's a great system, and it's a great use of building information modeling. This has been Brandon with I Am The Studio. Thanks for watching. If you got a lot out of this video, give the video a like and subscribe to the I Am Studio channel. If you need help with your Revit projects, see the links in the description for the complete Revit guide course and other Revit tutorials. Great way to improve your Revit skills to professional level. See you in the next tutorial.